that being said, on to tonight's topic, which is forgiveness. Today is Wednesday, May 14th, 2014, and it is a little after 5:30 here in California. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. It is my absolute pleasure to have you all here. For some of you, it's probably already the 15th, because depending on what part of the world you're in, it's really early in the morning, or it could be the start of your day, or it could be really, really late at night. I really appreciate so many of you making the time to be here and join me and spend this time with me. And I promise to do my very best to make it worth your while. Okay, forgiveness. Forgiveness is, the concept of forgiveness, the idea of forgiveness, is something that is becoming more and more and more of a hot topic, so to speak. It's an idea, it's a thing. Is it real? Is it a metaphor? Is it a thought? Is it a feeling? What is it? What is forgiveness? And the thing with forgiveness is, if you were to ask different people, if you ask 5 different people, you're going to probably get 5 different explanations, okay? I want to preface this by saying that I am not here to say that there's a right or a wrong way to forgive. I am also not here to tell you that you should forgive those people that you have not forgiven. I will say that if you do choose to forgive, and my hope is that by the end of this conversation that there might be someone or something that you haven't forgiven that you're ready to forgive. And so I will say that if you do choose to forgive, it will radically improve your life. And I'm also going to say too that the definition that we're going to use tonight, that concept of forgiveness that we're going to use tonight, is mine. Okay, it's the one that I've formed, it's the one I'm comfortable with, it's the one I'm comfortable in teaching. So if you read about it somewhere else, if you look it up from somewhere else, there might be a different concept, it might be a different idea, and that's totally fine, because again, forgiveness is this really unique idea, and different people are going to teach it differently. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that. Good? Okay, since you guys are on a delay, you're not going to have time to give me the thumbs up before I get going, so I'm just going to go and assume that everybody says, yes, Jesse, we're happy with that. Okay, forgiveness. So the way I like to describe forgiveness is I like to say it's an act of choosing compassion and love for someone or something, and this is someone or something who has wronged you, hurt you, caused you pain, and it's choosing compassion and love versus choosing anger. Okay? So let me say it again. Forgiveness is the act of choosing compassion and love, to feel compassion and love towards someone who has wronged you, someone who has hurt you, someone or something that has wronged you, hurt you, done you bad. There's some good English for you. Done you bad. Versus choosing anger towards them instead of feeling anger. So a lot of times when we're wrong, when something happens to us, what do? We want to be pissed off. We want to be angry. We want to be hurt. We want to find fault. And we hold on to those feelings. Forgiveness is simply letting go of that and choosing to feel love and compassion towards that person or that thing that has wronged you. The reason why is because what anger does is anger will eat away. Anger will devour your heart, your mind, your spirit, your soul. When you have anger in the sense of it's holding on to resentment, it's holding on to anger towards somebody who's wronged you, wherein compassion and love will set you free. Okay, so compassion and love will set you free. So let me explain forgiveness this is a very scientific demonstration here, okay? This is a little candle holder that I got once upon a time. And you guys see it's a nice little motivational thing. Have faith in yourself and in the future. Have faith in yourself and in the future. Okay, so let me give you a very scientific demonstration of this. Let's imagine all this empty space in here is you. Okay, this is your brain, your heart, your thoughts, your feelings all go into here. Now, obviously, if we fill this up, right, when we put stuff in it, it's going to occupy space. Now, you can see there's still some space left, but if I keep shoving stuff in here, right, eventually I'm going to run out of space. I'm just going to hit a capacity, and what's going to happen is when I go to look into my thoughts and my feelings, when I listen to the voices in my head or what's in my heart, I'm going to start to focus on the majority. Okay, so if I have a lot of pins in here, I'm going to see more pins than anything else, right? If I have if I'm filling the space up with really empowering thoughts and ideas. So if this is an empowering thought, if this is an empowering idea, if this is love, if this is compassion, and if I fill my space up, okay, with empowering thoughts, ideas, love, and compassion, guess what? The majority of my space is going to be occupied by that. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to think more empowering thoughts. I'm going to feel more empowering emotions. I'm going to feel much more love and compassion because that's what I'm filling myself up with. If, on the other hand, oh shit, there goes my pen. Oh, I'm trying not to cuss as much on the live stuff. If, on the other hand, I filled it up with negative stuff, with anger and resentment and the feeling of being a victim and frustration and hurt and pain, guess what? That same space now is occupied by those things. And there means there's less and less space for those other more empowering thoughts and feelings. And so when these things are in here and I want to go and I'm looking through my emotional repertoire and my thought process about what to think about and what to feel, guess what I'm going to focus on? The majority, which is going to be these anger, this frustration, this resentment, that what happened, okay? So this is a very, again, scientific demonstration of forgiveness in action, because what forgiveness does is it allows us to empty out the crap and make space for the good stuff. Okay, so forgiveness allows us to dump out the stuff, the negative stuff that bogs us down, the stuff that causes us pain and prevents us from moving forward. And it creates a space for us to put in good stuff, to put in the more empowering things, the stuff that's going to lift us up, the stuff that's going to propel us forward, the stuff that's going to fill our heart with love and passion and excitement and joy, the stuff that's going to help us think those empowering thoughts and believe in ourselves that we can do anything we want. It's going to get rid of those things when we hear those voices in our head that say, you can't, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're never going to be able to amount to anything. We can dump it out. Hey, negative voices, piss off, and put the good stuff in there. Okay, so that's forgiveness in a nutshell. Anger eats away at us. So when we have something that's filled with anger, guess what we're gonna do? We're focusing on anger, resentment, hurt all the time. We get rid of it and we replace it with love and compassion. Love and compassion is only going to free us and fill us up to experience more. Not only that, but forgiveness has been shown. There's more and more studies going on in the field of forgiveness. Forgiveness is becoming more and more practiced by psychologists, by clinicians, by medical professionals, spiritual people, you name it. Forgiveness is becoming a more and more prominent topic to discuss because there's more and more science coming out now to support the power of it. Right? It's now scientifically proven that practicing forgiveness, forgiving somebody or something that has wronged and hurt you, will lower your blood pressure, will reduce your anxiety level, reduce your stress level. It will help ease your breathing. It will help you sleep better. I mean, how many of us have laid awake at night before, sitting there focusing on and being angry and upset about somebody who wronged us or hurt us, right? Imagine not having those thoughts and feelings in your mind, how much deeper you'd sleep, right? Forgiveness has been shown to help increase weight loss, right? Think about it. If you're not stressed out, you're not going to be stress eating. You're going to be filled more with love and compassion. You're not going to put the crap in your body that poisons your body because you're going to be in a place where you're going to love yourself more. Forgiveness has been shown to reduce signs of depression or signs of anxiety. And on the other side of it, forgiveness has been shown to create better relationships. People who are willing to forgive, who are not holding on to stuff, are going to have better relationships. You guys have all heard me use the example, unless this is your first time here, which if this is your first time here, welcome, thank you for being here. I should have said that at the beginning. But all of you guys have heard me, who have been here before, heard me use the example about the trash can, taking the trash out, right? And you'll have a couple and they say, take the trash out, and they don't take the trash out. And what ends up happening is 2 years later, when something else comes up, one of the people comes up and says, well, and then you remember that time 2 years ago when you didn't take the trash out. And this is just like that time. Why is that coming up again 2 years later? If we had forgiven it and moved on, that would be irrelevant. But yet that person is holding on to it. They have put the trash can in here, and guess what? If the trash can's in here, there is not space for the love and good stuff in the relationship because they have it filled with trash. They have it filled with trash, okay? This isn't a rocket science. This is just basically, what is it, physics, where they talk about what the hell is it now? Oh man, if somebody's a physicist on here, please correct me, but two pieces of matter cannot occupy the same space, right? The same thing with our thoughts and feelings. If we're filling our thoughts and feelings up with memories of them not taking the trash out, guess what? We can't put in thoughts and feelings of the wonderful things they did because we're holding on to that. And is that something that's really worth holding on to cause that much pain and suffering in relationships with the people you supposedly care about? I don't think so, but yet we do it all the time. Why the hell do we do this? I think one of the number one reasons why people do not forgive is because when something happens to us, when we're wrong, when we're victimized, okay, whatever that is, we begin to form an identity from being a victim, from being wronged. We begin to form an identity from being that person who can't succeed, that person who life is just so hard on, right? Our identity becomes that. And you don't need to look any further than Facebook, right? And people post things about, oh man, this jerk just cut me off and now my whole day's ruined. And then what happens? They get all these likes and people comment, say, oh, I hate it when that happens. Somebody cut me off too and now my day's ruined as well. Oh man, that really makes me angry. Oh, I'm over here and the fact that you got cut off has me so pissed off and angry that I'm going to have a bad day now too, right? And so people feed off that. They realize, this is really interesting on an unconscious level. This is really interesting. When I make comments like this, when I have these things going on, all these people start to pay attention to me. It makes them feel significant. It makes them feel important. It makes them feel special, right? And so again, people don't realize it because deep down, what do we want? We want to be able to connect with other people. We want to feel good about ourselves. And we start to feel good about ourselves by playing that card, the woe is me card, the victim card, right? This is the same thing that a drug addict or an alcoholic will do. If you ask a drug addict or an alcoholic and say, is it good for you? Most of them are going to say, no, I wish I could stop. Well, why do you keep doing it? Because it's something about how it makes them feel. It helps them check out of the reality they're in and escape to a different one, right? It helps them to get out of their mind and their heart about the way they're thinking and feeling about themselves, and they can check into a different one. So when somebody is not forgiving, when they're holding on to the pain and whatnot that it caused from that, they can create an identity from that, and that identity begins to be formed like that. Just as fast as the painful experience happens, just as fast as the hurt happens, the new identity can happen like that. Because what happens is when we're wrong, when something happens and it upsets us, it hurts us, and again, guys, let me clarify this too. It does not matter how severe it is. Okay, this can be something horrible like your parent getting murdered, or your best friend dying, or you losing a child, and it could be something on the other end of somebody cutting you off on the freeway. Okay, the experience does not matter. What matters is how the person who experiences the experience interprets it. Every single person is going to handle things differently. Each person is going to handle things differently. And I think I've spoken with it before on other chats, but we all experience events differently. And so the meaning that we take from it is where we're running into the roadblock of forgiveness, right? If we have, I'll use an example I use with clients a lot, is you have two people, and I may have shared this with you before, but we have two people who live next door to each other, two little kids that live next door to each other, both 5 years old. And they walk out of their house, and one's walking outside with his dog, the other one's walking outside with his tricycle. They walk out of the houses and they turn opposite directions, okay? And these kids are exactly the same. They basically have the same birthday. They look the same whole bit. The kid with his bike rides about a mile down the road. And he gets down there and he gets a flat tire. And he looks around and nobody's there to help him. He's crying. He's upset. He calls for his mom, calls for his dad. Nobody comes. Nobody comes. And so he doesn't know what to do. He panics. He's never had a situation where mom and dad weren't there to help him, weren't there to bail him out. So he picks up his bike and he carries it back, and he's just completely dejected and hurt. And he gets back, and from that experience, he learns that he can't trust his parents anymore, that they're not always going to be there for him, and it's heartbreaking to him. Okay, it's this whole loss of innocence. Meanwhile, the other kid goes about a mile down the road, and he's with the family dog, and they're sitting there and they're playing catch and whatnot, and the dog runs out in the street, and boom, a car drives by, speeds through, hits the dog, keeps on going, doesn't stop, and the little kid runs over to his family dog, who's been there since he was a little baby, and he's got the dog just, splattered everywhere, and the dog dies in his arms. And so he's crying for help, crying for mom and dad, and so nobody stops, nobody comes to help him. He's crying, tears are pouring down his face. He scoops the dog up and he's carrying it back home, and he's struggling, and he's got blood all over him. And as he gets home, he realizes that mom and dad aren't always going to be there for him, that they're not always going to be there to bail him out, and it's a heartbreaking experience for him. So these two people, they both had different experiences. They both had different events happen to them, but how they experienced it, how they internalized it was the same, right? Now, if from that experience they form anger, they form frustration, they form resentment towards their parents, and they carry that on with them throughout life, is that going to cause some problems for them? Is it going to hamper their relationship with their parents? Probably, because they're going to feel that pain, that anger. Now, in this example, are little kids going to be able to articulate this concept? No, definitely not at all. But it's going to be something that can follow them forever, and as adults, it's going to be something where they're going to think, well, why am I still holding on to this? And then they go back and they realize, oh, shoot, this is what happened. Okay, so people don't forgive because they get comfortable in that victim, that hurt, that painful identity. And they don't realize this formed. Just like those little kids, they didn't realize that was being formed when they experienced those events. They had no idea. But it happened like that. Okay, so that's why people do not necessarily forgive. Let me take a quick swig of water here. If you guys can tell, I'm starting to perspire, and I apologize if I'm doing the sweat wipe. I'm really not trying to do the Baywatch pose or anything like that. It's just really that hot here. And I didn't want to put a fan on because all you hear was and I'm yelling even louder than I am. And if I could sit still when I talked and wasn't so animated and excited, it would probably be a lot easier. Maybe I should become one of those presenters where I go, forgiveness. I think it would take away some of the meaning in the message. Okay, so that's forgiveness in the episode. Now, here's the big one. How to forgive. How do we forgive? The idea and the concept and the action to forgive is actually quite simple. And again, there's going to be different people who are going to teach it differently. I will typically teach this differently on a person-to-person basis. Because it's a large group right now, I'm going to give you guys kind of the general way. I'm not saying that my way is the only way. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that it's wrong or anything like that. It's just a way that I've become very comfortable teaching it to people, and it's been effective with me with working with people. Okay, so to forgive, the first and most important thing you have to be at with forgiveness is you have to be willing to let go of the anger, pain. You have to be willing to let go of that which you're holding on to. You have to. Now, this is important too, and forgiveness is not necessarily something that's going to happen like that. Okay, it's important to take time to grieve your loss. So, if you have a loved one that is killed by a drunk driver, I think you're completely entitled, and it's very healthy to be angry, to be sad, to be upset, to be pissed off, to be frustrated, to be all those things, right? We're emotional creatures, and it's important for us to feel those emotions. And if we don't feel those emotions, if we don't process them out of us, they're going to fester and take root inside of us. So it's really, really important for us to grieve. Once we have grieved, and again, we have to be really honest with ourselves about this. Different people are going to say different things. Some people will say you could grieve for 2 months. Some people are going to say you could grieve for 2 years. There is no certain right amount of time at all. But once you've allowed yourself to process those initial emotions, okay, you've allowed yourself to experience and feel them. You're not holding on to them. And what do I mean by holding on? Holding on to emotions is when you get to that place where you kind of feel like you're feeling better, and then and then you're looking for things to set you off. You're looking for things to remind you of that anger, that frustration, okay? So if you feel you're trying to pull those emotions back into you, that's holding on. Okay, so you have to be, after you've had enough time to grieve, you have to be willing to let go of those emotions that you're trying to hold on to. when you are letting go of them, when you're ready to let go, the way you let go is, and I like to have people do something physical. So what I like to have people do is I like to have them write it down. I like to have them write down the person or the event that they've experienced something with. And then I like to have them write down what they've been holding on to, whether it's anger, whether it's pain, whether it's frustration, whatever it is. And then I like them to switch it, and this is where forgiveness comes, and take what they used to experience as anger and frustration and see it from a place of kindness and gratitude. Kindness and gratitude for what they've learned, kindness and gratitude for how they've grown, kindness and gratitude for where they're going, because that is ultimately an act of love and compassion, right? And remember what we started with is forgiveness is making the choice of choosing love and compassion as opposed to anger. Okay, so again, an example. The person who had a family member that was killed by a DUI, who was killed by a drunk driver. They're angry, they're pissed off, they're upset, and rightfully so, right? But they're at the point where they want to forgive. So what I would have that person do is I'd have them write down on a piece of paper the person's name, what they did, what they've been holding on to, what they're going to let, why they want to, what they're going to let go, what they've learned, and then to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to learn. Thank you for this opportunity to grow. And my pledge is now going to see you from a place of, is going to see the experience from a place of love and compassion. Now, with forgiveness, does that mean that we ever have to like somebody again? Does that mean we ever have to be friends with that person? Not at all. Somebody, I don't know if you all got a chance to watch it, but I encourage you to do so. Somebody posted yesterday under one of the postings I made for YouTube, a little short video about this mom who forgave, really powerful example of forgiveness, forgave this guy who killed her son. So her only son was at a party. He got in an argument with another kid over something really stupid. The other kid was 16 years old, shot and killed her son. The 16-year-old kid gets sentenced to life in prison. The mom wants him to go away. She looks at him as this vicious animal. At some point during his sentence, the mom starts to feel she wants to make some changes because she realizes that the anger and the hatred she's holding on towards him is not really hurting him, but it's hurting her. Okay, and this is something that's really important, you guys. When we hold on to these feelings, it's not hurting the other person, it's hurting us. We're only hurting ourselves. The other person is going to feel what they decide to feel. If they did something wrong, they did something whatever, they're going to probably feel some pain. Even if they don't realize it, us holding on to pain towards them is not going to affect them at all. It's only going to affect us. So she realizes that this is going on, and she decides to go and talk to this guy while he's in prison. And what ends up happening is she gets to the place where she can forgive him. Then not only is she able to forgive him, but once he gets out, she talks to her landlady. The landlady talks to her, and with her blessing, allows the guy to move in next door to her. So this guy who killed this lady's son, they're now next door neighbors. Okay, not only are they next door neighbors, but they're close. She helps him out. He helps her out. They have this really amazing relationship now. And it's a relationship that once upon a time she hated him. She would have killed the guy if she could have, probably. She would have. But that was a relationship that came from forgiveness. And now what happens is she is not only able to live her life free from pain, of the extra pain. You know, she's still sad she lost her son, absolutely. She's still hurt, absolutely. But she's not carrying around that extra pain that she had before. She emptied out the anger, the resentment she's holding towards him, and she replaced it with love and kindness and compassion. And so now, as a result, she's able to experience more love and kindness and compassion in her life. Okay, so when we're ready to that place, when we're ready to forgive somebody, we need to empty out that which we're holding on to. Write it down on paper, who it is, what we want to do, why we're forgiving them. And then ultimately we want to put in what we learned and why we're grateful for it. I learned how precious life is. I learned why it's so important never to drink and drive. I learned that it's so important to treasure each moment and tell the people who I love the most how much I love them. Okay, I learned that we're not immortal and every minute really is a gift. And if I would have never had this experience, I would have never been able to connect to that. And I would have never been able to treasure the people who are in my life now the way I can going forward. Okay, that is switching it around and replacing anger and resentment with love and compassion. Taking these thoughts of, oh, I'm angry, I'm pissed off, I'm hurt, all these things, getting rid of them and replacing them with, I'm so grateful that I can appreciate life the way I can. I'm so thankful for this moment I have. I pledge this day forward because of this experience I've learned. I pledge this day forward to always let the people who matter most to me know just how much they matter to me. Okay? So what I want you guys to do is, once this video is over, I want you all, if you're up for it, is to find if there's someone or something that you have not forgiven. Okay, I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to write their name down, or write down whatever it is. And I want you to run through this just like we did. What have you not forgiven them for? What are you ready to let go of today? How do you want to see the event now? And then see it from a place of love and compassion. And then just say thank you out loud. Thank you. And just allow yourself to experience that release. Now, this is the most challenging part about this. When we do this process, we can really experience release of anger, frustration instantly, but it's going to be the deliberate practice of this that's going to take the time. Okay? So I would recommend doing this process every day until you don't feel it popping back up again, until you don't feel that anger and resentment resurfacing. Because if you've been holding on to it for a while, your body and yourself has gotten very used to it. So it's going to take some adjustment to get to a place where you're living without it. So practice it every day. Each day, wake up in the morning, write down who you're forgiving, why, and how you're going to see how you are going to choose to see things from again. Okay, guys, so that's forgiveness in a nutshell. Quick summary, and then we'll get to questions. Forgiveness is the act of choosing love and compassion, as opposed to choosing to view somebody who's wronged you from a place of anger. Okay, anger ultimately eats away at us. Compassion, love, free us. Again, remember my scientific example. If we have this space, we can fill it with stuff like this, which is positive, upbringing, love, or we can fill it with anger, resentment, compassion. The more we fill, guess what? The more we're going to focus on. So when you hear those negative voices in your head, those limiting beliefs, odds are they're in there because there's something that you have not yet forgiven and you have not yet let go of. People don't forgive because we begin to form an identity from that. So we want to change our identity, we have to forgive. Otherwise, we're going to keep holding on to that identity of not forgiving. And forgiving is a process. Forgiving has lots of positive. It reduces symptoms of depression, anxiety. It helps people sleep better. It improves relationships. It increases weight loss. I mean, there's a plethora of benefits that we can. If we had another hour, I could just sit here and list those off of. Okay. And how you forgive is, after you get done grieving, you focus on what happened, and you choose to just let it go. You get to the place where you're just willing to let go of that pain, let go of that anger, and replace it again with love and compassion. Write the person's name down, or the thing, what they did, what you're going to let go of, why you're going to do it, and how you're going to see it versus instead. Okay? So that is forgiveness. You guys, thank you so much for being patient. Don't forget to do the homework, take action, write it down on a piece of paper, who you're going to forgive, why. Go through the process I talked about. And now we will go to questions and answers. And I'm going to take a sip of water and wipe some of the sweat off my head. Okay? And you guys can just type your questions in on the comments over here. Not that you guys can really see my screen, so how do I make that? Oh, there we go. It is warm. What if you forgive someone, but in the back of your mind you really don't? That's not forgiveness, is it? So forgiveness is emptying out that space. Again, it's not holding on to it. And my question to you would be is, why in the world would you want to hold on to that pain? Why would you want to hold on to that pain that you're... And remember, holding on to it is not going to help you at all, and it sure as heck is not going to hurt them. It's only going to hurt you. So why would you choose to inflict that kind of pain on your life going forward? Good question. Is it bad to forgive and not to forget so you don't get hurt again in that way? No, not at all. I think forgiveness and forgetting is not the same thing. Forgiveness just means you're releasing yourself of the burden of pain. Forgetting, yeah, you know, you guys, there's been plenty of people I've forgiven, but I sure as hell remember what happened, and I remember that because I don't want to have the same thing happen again. That's totally fine. But what it means is that's a lesson learned, but I'm not going to carry around the pain, the heartache, all that stuff with me more. I'm not going to carry that crap around. Think about it like this. When you take a dump, when you go number 2, okay, you flush it down right away, right? Because you don't want that shit festering in your toilet because it smells, it stinks it up, it's not attractive. So why in the world would we carry emotional shit and crap around inside of our heart and mind? Flush it down the toilet. Get rid of it, because if you don't, it's going to fester and it's going to stack up. And imagine what if, I don't know if any of you have a septic tank, and when that thing gets really stinky, or have any of you ever gone on a porta potty on a really warm day after everybody's gone through it at some festival? Oh my gosh, you talk about stench. And you go in there and you're just gagging the whole time. Ugh, ugh. That's what's going on inside your head and your heart when you don't forgive and when you hold on to all this negative crap that comes with it, okay? So think of it like that. Great question. I got to stop because I'll get on a tangent. Some of my clients who are on here, they know I like to get on tangents with bathroom humor as an example. So, and they hear it enough as it is. If you forgive someone for the same thing you forgave them for before, is there a point where you cannot forgive them again? No, I would encourage you to keep forgiving, because again, if you don't forgive, you are going to keep adding it up inside of you, and it's going to keep hurting you. Now, having said that, there's a point where you learn and you have to decide, you know, is this person, if they're still repetitively harming you in the same way, is this person really somebody that you want to have in your life? Is this person somebody you really want to devote the level of relationship or whatever it is on? Because if they're continually causing you pain, if I were you, I'd stop and ask myself, okay, is this what I want my life to look like? Is this the kind of people I want to surround myself with? Great question. How to forgive something that has been done to you as an innocent kid? Good question. So when we're kids, you know, it's unfortunate because when we're kids, we don't have the language to articulate things like we do then. And, you know, obviously there's some really horrible things that happen to kids. There's some really, really horrible things. But I promise you that there is something positive that you could have learned from it. And that if you choose to look at it that way, you could apply it to your life, or maybe you are applying it. What I would hope to say to myself if it was me, and there's been some things that have happened to me as a kid too, and you know, it took me a while to get to the point where to forgive those things. What finally got me there was when I stopped and had the honest conversation with myself, and I said, okay, you know, this pain I'm carrying around, who is it affecting? It's only affecting me. Who is it hurting? It's only hurting me, right? So again, willing to let go of those things that which happened in the past, because if we don't, it keeps affecting us in the present, and we keep having to deal with it over and over again in the present, and we have to keep experiencing it again as the present. You know, it happened, and unfortunately we can't go back and change what happened, but what we can do is we can change how it's going to affect us now in the present and going forward. Great question. Are you going to speak at any college graduations? I would absolutely love to. That's definitely on my list, is I want to be one of those keynote speaker guys. I think I could give a pretty good one. I'd have to clean up a couple things, but maybe I'd have to wear some sort of formal clothes. I don't know if they'd let me show up like this, but who knows? If they're really open to it, that'd be cool. Do you think watching a guided forgiveness meditation on YouTube would be a good tool to help you forgive? Absolutely. If that's something that you think would help you, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, again, my way is not necessarily the only way, and there's probably tons of different ways out there. This is just the way I teach and how I like to teach it to people. If a guided meditation, a book, anything like that, a song, whatever will help you do it, then do that, right? Just absolutely. Whatever resource is going to help you get it, do it. Because it's so important to forgive and get that crap out of you. What is my proudest achievement? Oh, that's a really good question. You know, I think it varies from day to day. You know, I'm really proud of the 1,000 challenge. I'm very, very proud of that. I'm very proud of making the decision to exercise, because when I think about that, I know who that kid was and how shy he was, how scared he was. I know how much he hated himself. And when I say that kid, I mean me. I know how much I was disgusted with myself. I know how I felt in the dialogue I had with myself every time I looked in the mirror. And it was not a nice one. The guy you guys see sitting in front of you now is not the same person that was when I made that decision. So I think, if I had to choose one, that would probably be it, was that moment in time where I knew I had a decision to make. And I could either keep doing the same thing I was doing, or I could invest in myself and make some changes. And I'm so glad I did that, because it was scary. I had no idea what the hell I was going to do, and luckily I was able to, find some good resources to help me. But it would change my life. It completely changed my life, and it was probably the most crucial moment ever. And so that would probably be my most proudest achievement. Good question. If you have forgiven but not forgotten, how do you let what's happened not affect your relationship with that person in the future? Then you haven't really forgiven. Okay, you have not forgiven. If something has happened and you're still allowing it to affect your relationship in the future, you have not forgiven, because that means you're holding on to the emotion and the experience of which happened. Forgiveness, again, is, guys, it's like wiping the slate clean. Let's go back to the toilet analogy. When you take a dump and that shit is sitting there in the toilet and you flush it, you're not going to come back later that day and start rehashing it, right? I mean, every now and then you might. I definitely have poop conversations with some of my friends, and they're pretty funny. But as a general whole, we're not going to revisit that stuff. But if we're doing it in the context of a relationship, if we're bringing old shit back up, that means you have not forgiven and you have not let it go. So for you, I would say go back, dig back in, and work through that, because that's your stuff. That's not theirs. It's yours. You're holding on to it, okay? And that's hindering the relationship. Really good question. Glad you asked that. It appears the older I get, the more I choose to forgive, because I don't want to take up precious time being a victim or hurt. You sure do know how to make my dinner come back up. Yeah, you guys are all going to have a different perspective with me now. Oh, that 1,000 challenge guy, he's so motivating. He sits there and talks about poop like it's poetry. That's a pretty good quote. Somebody wants to write that down and use it for later. You can. Maybe I'll use that in my keynote speech at a college. Poop is like poetry. Da, 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 da. But no, I think with age, it can go both ways. I think with age, we can have wisdom and we can start applying it. We realize certain things like that. But also with age, we can use that as an excuse and say, well, I've had all this pain happen before, and I'm tired of forgiving and letting go. And now I'm just going to be angry and pissed off. And the choice is an individual choice, and I hope for everyone's sake and for your overall quality of life that you're going to continue to choose forgiveness. So we're essentially forgiving an event versus a person. That's a good question. And the answer is it depends. It really depends. And some people are going to focus on the event. Some people are going to focus on the person, right? If there is and that's going to be a person, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. If you're a person who looks at the event and what happened as a separate entity, then you're forgiving the event. But if you're a person and you look at there's a cause and effect and that this person created this event, then I would look at the person first. Okay, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that. That's an important distinction. Forgiveness is a very spiritual concept to me. Do you agree? Again, it depends on the person. It totally depends on the person. For more spiritual people, it's going to be more spiritual. I'm going to say this. It is for you, whatever it is for you. Whether it's a spiritual, whether it's an emotional, whether it's any of those things. I look at it as a blend of all those things. I look at it as spiritual. I look at it as emotional. I look at it as intellectual. I look at it as soulful. I blend it all together for me. And for you, the experience of it is going to be whatever is unique and important to you that allows you to do it. Good question. I have seen the power of forgiveness years ago. As soon as I forgave, my life took an upturn. As soon as I forgave, my life took an upturn. Recently, you gave advice to get rid of negative influences, which I did, but I have not been feeling better. I forgot to forgive her. I forgot to forgive her. Okay, so understanding that now and understanding to make that decision to forgive I think now you're going to see your life take the upturn because you know from the past what happens when you forgave, things got better. So if we eliminate negative people in our life, but we're still bitter and angry about whatever they did to us, that's not going to really allow us to move on because we're still holding on to the emotion, right? You all know that the emotions and the thoughts are just as powerful, and a lot of times they're more hurtful and impactful than if the person's actually there. Okay, this is why I think in relationships, mental and emotional abuse is often way more traumatic than physical abuse because they cut so deeper. So we have to forgive to really get stuff out of us. Can you confirm that it's more an issue about forgiving yourself first and really forgiving someone else? Again, it's totally going to depend. So the question was, is it more of an issue about forgiving yourself versus forgiving somebody else? It totally depends. And again, this is going to be a case-by-case basis. I think if there's a question on both sides, I would definitely do forgive both sides. Look at both sides of it and do it. I think that when there's forgiveness of someone else or something else, it's always good to look at ourselves too, because a lot of times when we go through the process of forgiving someone, there may be a little reciprocal anger or resentment or frustration with ourselves. Oh, Jesse, why the hell did you hold on for that so long? That was so stupid to hold on for that so long. You wasted so much of your life, blah, 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 right? Forgive yourself for that too, right? Because it's always a learning process. So forgive yourself for that. Great question. And again, it's a case. It's always for most of these things. It's going to be a case-by-case basis. But I'm glad you asked that, so we can make that distinction. I love the poop talk. Laugh out loud. I don't need dinner. Oh boy, we could have a whole nother little YouTube chat on poop. Do you have to tell the person that you forgave them? No, not at all. Good question. Not at all. Forgiveness is something that's very personal, and it in no way needs to involve the other person. If you want it to, you totally can. But no, it definitely doesn't need to. And I'll tell you guys, for me personally, the majority of people I've forgiven in my life, I've not told it to them directly. And the majority of people I've forgiven in my life, there's a reason that I needed to forgive them, because I just don't want them in my life. I don't want them in my life, and so I have zero desire to ever talk to them again. I have zero desire to have any contact with them. I have zero desire to know what's going on with them in their life. Okay? But I also have zero desire to let anything that happened between us affect me in the present. So I forgive them. I let go of all that nonsense. Okay? But it doesn't mean I ever want to talk to them again. There's a lot more people who I would rather talk with. And again, if I'm creating this space and I'm putting those people in it, guess what? It takes away from the space of enjoying the people who I'd like to talk to, the people who I want to experience. So forgiveness does not mean you have to tell the person. It just means that you're letting it go. You're giving yourself permission to empty the crap out. Good question. I was raped, but how do I forgive and to stop the pain so that the pain it has caused will stop. So and first of all, thank you so much for asking it. I was hoping somebody would broach this portion of it, because this is one of the areas that forgiveness can be kind of a gray area. And with any sort of sexual assault, sexual abuse, and when something so horrific happens, right, and there's literally this innocence that's taken away from us, the question is, well, how am I supposed to forgive that person? How am I supposed to forgive somebody who came at me from such a place of hatred? How am I supposed to show them compassion and love? And my answer to you is this. If there's still pain going every day, if there's still hurt going on every day, it's like that person is doing it to you over and over again. And so you know that holding on to that which has happened is not going to ever take that pain away. The only thing that can ever, think of it as a little kid, and when you were hurt or you got something happened to you and you felt this pain, what did you want? You would run to mommy or you'd run to daddy, and the reason would be is because you'd want them to put a Band-Aid on it, because the Band-Aid was love. You wanted them to come and love you and nurture you and bring you back to health. Right? How many of us, when we were sick, do we remember crying in bed and we wanted our parents? As adults, sometimes we still want the parents to come over and take care of us, right? Because we want to have that love and nurturing. Love is the only thing that can ever fully replace a pain that intense. Love is the only thing that can. Love, I think, I believe, and again, this doesn't mean it's right or wrong or anything like this. Is just Jesse's belief. I really believe that love is the ultimate force in the universe, in the world. I believe that love is there's a reason that when we are born, we're born and the only way we have to communicate is with love, right? We communicate everything we do. We use love to survive. We use love to feed. We use love to get a laughter, all these things, right? Before we learn language, what we are already born knowing is love. Because love is really the most powerful force out there. And so the only way that that pain is ever going to go away is if you replace that pain with love. And the way you start to do that is you start by forgiving that which happened. You find a greater meaning in it other than that you were a victim. And I promise you that there is a greater meaning in it, but you have to be willing to look for it. And I can't tell you what that is because I don't know what your specific story is or what specifically happened. Only you can. But I promise you that if you're willing to look within your heart and look for that love, that you are going to find that greater meaning that is going to allow you to forgive. Okay? And if you need some more help about this, send me an email. I'd be happy to talk with you more about it. But again, I really, really appreciate you reaching out and sharing and asking that because that's something that I was hoping somebody would go to because this is really where a lot of times people get on the cliff about forgiveness. Well, how can I forgive somebody that does something like that? And again, you can, but you have to be willing to see. You have to see it from a place of love. You just have to. Okay? How did you stumble over forgiveness when motivating and training people? Great question. Because it's for me as working with a coach, as a coach, right? And oh shoot, there goes my back support thing. As a coach and working with people, I want to help people live, right, their most empowering, most fulfilled life possible. And people can't do that if they're holding on to stuff and they're allowing themselves to continue to experience pain over and over again. So I need to learn tools, strategies, techniques, concepts, what have you, to help people get past this, to be more effective in helping people. For me to do the best I can do as a coach, for me to fulfill my ultimate purpose, I need and want to be effective at helping people. And forgiveness is a very, very powerful tool in helping people make changes and helping people get to where they want to be because it really does allow them to let go of some crap that they're holding on to. Please do some more sessions like this. I feel so cleansed. Oh, awesome. Thank you. We definitely will. And I see a lot of you sending gratitude comments, and I want you to know I'm noticing them. And I really appreciate them. If I'm not reading them all out loud, it's just because there's so many questions coming up. I want to make sure that I'm answering all the questions. And let me just take a moment to acknowledge all of you individually that are sending the gratitude comments. I really, from my heart, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you guys are taking the time to write those things and that this is meaning as much to you as it is. Okay, questions. If you're forgiving someone for something and you do want to continue a relationship with them, wouldn't it be positive to tell them you forgive them so they don't do the same thing to you again? Yeah, absolutely. I think in relationships, if we're in a relationship with them and we're committed to stay in that relationship with somebody, I think it's very healthy, it's very powerful, it's very beneficial, and it's very positive in the relationship to tell a person you forgave them. And what that also does, you guys, is it gives your partner or the other person, whoever it is, a chance to help hold you accountable. Because if you truly forgive them, that should never come up again. And if it does come up again, right, if the trash getting taken out comes back up again, they can say, hey, we dealt with this before. You said you forgave and it was over. Why is this coming up? And then you can say, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm so sorry. This has no relevance to what we're talking about now. Let's focus on what's really going on. And then you can look at yourself and say, well, shoot, did I really forgive? And you can go back and go through the process of it again. Great question. What do we got? We got probably about 5 more minutes. Keep those questions coming. Anybody got any other questions? Let me take a sip of water. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I took my watch and my wristband off because it was just they were just causing friction, which was creating more sweat. Oh, yeah, we only got 5 minutes. I'm down to my last little bit of water here. Do you think that a kind of everyday forgiveness is crucial to create an amazing relationship? Um, that's a great question. I don't know if I would say it's crucial. I would say it's definitely beneficial. It's definitely beneficial when we are in relationships with people, whether it's romantic, whether it's professional, whether it's a family relationship. Inevitably, things are going to happen that it's going to frustrate us. It's going to piss us off. It's going to hurt our feelings. And when those things happen, I think it's really important to practice forgiveness on a regular basis. Obviously, we don't want to be in relationships, I think, where that's happening all the time. And I think making that a regular habit is a really powerful one. So yeah, I definitely think it's beneficial. Is it crucial? I think it's only crucial if you're choosing not to forgive. Okay, and I don't think necessarily that there's going to be things that are going to happen every day. In most relationships, there's not necessarily going to be stuff that's going to happen every day that's going to really need to be forgiven. Again, it depends on, it's going to be a case-by-case basis for the person. I think for you personally, if practicing daily forgiveness is a powerful and helpful tool for you, then absolutely, I totally encourage you to do that. And I think it's going to only enhance and improve your relationship. So even when you stuff the pain down and don't deal with it, it is just a time bomb waiting to go off. Absolutely. Think about the toilet, you guys. When you take a massive dump and you try to flush it and it clogs, it does not matter how much you flush it or how much you do anything with it, it's not going away. It's not until you get in there with the plunger and plunge that crap that it's going to go away. Okay, you have to deal with the problem and get rid of it. Otherwise, it's just going to clog and clog and clog, and eventually, and then you're going to have a shit storm shooting up from the pipes. Since somebody told me it was okay, now you can see I feel much more free in talking about my poop. Not my poop personally. Poop is a metaphor. Question up there. Oh, I see. Okay. Any thoughts on how to deal if you forgive, but oops. Okay, hold on. Any thoughts on how to deal if you forgive but don't want to be near that person anymore when it's close relatives? Again, you have to establish boundaries. Just talk to. I would just be honest. Be honest and just say, hey, this is what happens. This is what happened. It hurt. I want you to know I forgive you. I'm not going to hold on to this anymore in my life. If you want to tell them that, but just say, you know what, I'm not going to make it a priority to spend time with you, do things with you anymore, or anything like that. It's just, it's not worth it to me. You've continually showed me this and this, and you guys, you have to be honest. If whether they're relatives or friends or something like that, if somebody's hurting you and is repetitively hurting you, and you need to cut ties, cut it. That conversation, however uncomfortable or awkward it might feel, having it and being done with it is going to feel a heck of a lot better than having to sit there and spend all your time on it over and over again. Okay? We have about 5 questions that have already been typed. So no more questions after these. I'm going to answer these 5 and then we'll wrap it up. Okay? So, and I have a little bit of delay. So I think the last one, it looks like it's popped up on here. Oh, maybe these aren't. So we'll have, there's about 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll wrap it up after that. Okay? Oh shoot, I just lost my place. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Do you think some people have trouble giving themselves permission to forgive? You think some people have trouble giving themselves permission to forgive because they feel that by doing so, they're giving the person who hurt them permission to treat them badly? That's a really great question. And I would say that in an initial conversation, somebody might say that, and that might be their justification for it. Really, though, deep down, it's going to be something more than that, and it's typically going to be, I think the identity gets formed, and I think a lot of it is going to be the identity. I think that happens unconsciously, so consciously somebody's not going to necessarily be aware of it, and so their conscious response may be, well, I don't want to because I don't want to give them permission to hurt me. So I think you might encounter that. Having said that, I think there's always something below the surface. Great question. You guys have had some awesome questions tonight. Really, really great questions. How do you forgive without becoming a pushover? I think ultimate strength is being able to forgive. Right? I think ultimate strength is being able to forgive because You think about the strength it takes to forgive and let go, and to choose to feel love and compassion before anything else. When you don't forgive and you hold on to that stuff, it's only going to weaken you, right? Think about how when you're holding on to stuff, again, we have all this crap in the cup, and we're thinking when we have anxiety, when we're stressed, when we're not able to sleep at night, when we're putting on weight, when we're doing all those other things from not forgiving, that's only weakening us. When we forgive and let go of that crap, that is going to make us so much stronger because we're not going to be carrying around all that extra garbage, all that extra junk. Good question. Let me see. I think there's one more. And then, that was it. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So let me leave you with this. Oh, there's one more question, and then I'll get to that. What is something that would be unforgivable? I don't think there's anything that would be unforgivable, at least for me. You know, and I've had some rough things that have happened to me, and I'm sure there's going to be some more rough things that have happened to me. But I really hope from my heart that I will always be a strong enough person and true enough to myself that there'll never be anything that's unforgivable, because I don't want to live my life carrying that crap around. I just don't. I think, you know, there's things that's happened that have been very hurtful. There's going to probably be more stuff that's going to happen in my life that's going to be very hurtful. But I just don't want to live my life carrying around that shit. You know, so for me, there's nothing that I can think of or can imagine that would be unforgivable, because that would be me going against everything that I believe and I'm trying to teach. Okay, reminder, thank you. Reminder that you're going to tell us about when our next chat is. Okay, guys, so mark your calendars. The next chat is going to be Sunday, June 15th, next month, which, okay, now let me say something. That is going to be Father's Day, and I don't know if the rest of the world practices Father's Day on the same day. It's going to be Father's Day. I'm doing it then for a couple of reasons. One, my schedule is going to be really crazy in June. I'm traveling a lot, and that's just going to be a time that I know I can do it, and it's about a month out from now. Two, we have a huge international group, and I know there's been a lot of requests to try to switch up the times to make it more available to that. So I'm going to alternate back and forth from doing evening ones like this and then doing morning ones like that on the weekend, to try to give more people an opportunity to join in live. The biggest reasons why it's going to be on that date is, one, it's Father's Day, so that's a very special day to me, as you all know, from my dad passing, and then also that will be the 5th anniversary of my friend's suicide. He killed himself on June 15th, 2009. So that's going to be, both of those dates just happen to fall on the same day, Father's Day, and the anniversary of his suicide. So the topic is going to be, and I may change this a little bit, but what I'm playing with right now, it's going to be along this line, is it's going to be about loss. It's going to be about what I've learned from loss. It's going to be about the experience loss brings to our life. And it's going to be a very personal one, because it's going to be on a very special day for me. It's Father's Day, and it's going to be the anniversary of my friend Gabe's suicide. And they just happen to fall on the same day. So I understand that many of you may have Father's Day plans. I hope that some of you can make the time. It's going to be at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. So maybe you can do it before breakfast in the United States. Maybe you can do it after dinner time, after lunch in the other parts of the world, in Europe and Australia. Australia, it might still be in the middle of the night for you guys, but maybe you guys can stay up a little bit later to join in. And, you know, bring your family too. I think it's going to be one that's really beneficial for friends and family too. So I think on special days like that, when we're doing family events, it's always helpful to have the people that we love and care about the most join in and learn together. Okay, so June 15th, next month, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. I will, of course, post it on Facebook and stuff when it gets closer to that time. Those of you who are on the newsletter will know. Also, just a couple more quick updates. I hope you guys, if you haven't had a chance to check out my new website, so many of you have and have given feedback about it. I really, really appreciate that. And I had made a note on Facebook about, I'm going to have a contest coming up. The contest is going to go out. The signups for the contest will go out next week. You're going to have the opportunity to win some cool prizes, win some cash, lose weight, get in shape at the same time. It's going to be open to, I think, I'm only going to let 30 people do this contest, and the first priority is going to be to the people who are subscribing to the newsletter. So if you have not subscribed to the newsletter, please go to my website, sign up for it. You'll get the happiness guide as part of it. And I promise you, I will never be that person who spams or anything like that. Typically, I only will send one email out a week, and it's usually really content rich. I cannot stand those ones where you get 20 different emails a week from that, and I promise you'll never get that from me. Every now and then you might get two. Next week I think there's going to be 2 or 3 just because I want to make sure we get enough people sign up and know about the contest. But after that I'll go right back to 1. And again, I promise you it'll be good stuff. And otherwise, you guys, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much for joining. And those of you who stayed up late, those of you who have got up early, those of you who made the time to spend it with me tonight, I really, really appreciate it. And I will post the video. Once it gets done recording, I'll post it on Facebook. Please share it with your friends and family, the people who matter most to you. I think it's a really powerful topic. And you guys, also, I encourage you to take some time to talk about this with the people you care about the most. It's something that practicing it can really improve your life. It will really improve your relationships and the people you care about the most. Okay? And I will see you guys on here June 15th, hopefully. You guys have an amazing rest of your evening, amazing day. And again, thank you so much for being such an awesome group.